In the spring of 1998, when I was 7 years old, I was out in the woods behind the trailer my family lived in with my dog Shady Lady. Well, that's what I called her. Her name was actually Shaylee, but when I was little, I would get a nasty fluid buildup in my ears so I couldn't hear correctly. My parents didn't realize this was a problem until I was about 3 years old and still wasn't talking precisely. I would slur my words or pronounce things completely incorrect. When I turned 4, my parents finally enrolled me in school and I was placed in a speech class. One of the teachers suggested we see an ear specialist. That's when we discovered I had drainage problems. My ears would fill up with fluid for long periods of time. Within a week, I had surgery to place tubes in my ears and open the canals. My hearing has been perfect ever since, despite what my parents might say. Sadly, I still had speech problems because I hadn't been able to hear correctly for so long. That's why I called Shaylee Shady, and eventually Shady Lady. Since I couldn't speak well, I didn't have many friends and preferred to play with Shady Lady or my older sister Miranda. Shady Lady was a young basset hound puppy with floppy ears. Sometimes when she ran, she would actually trip on her own ears because they were way too big for her body. Shady Lady and I were going out to a shelter I had built out in the woods. It was really well hidden. I would take sugar cubes and oats and lay them out a couple yards away from the hidden shelter to watch deer come by and eat. I was particularly excited this day because I knew the deer I had been feeding was going to have a baby any time now. My shelter was a hole that I had dug out of an old giant oak tree's rotten trunk at its base. I had placed a few pine limbs in front of the hole to make it harder to see the opening. When we finally got in there, I poured out some oats and sugar. I even put out a little extra for the baby. I was excited at the thought of seeing my first baby deer as I sat there with Shady Lady on my lap, waiting for them to come by. The sun was bright, shining through the leaves with a golden yellow tint. It's so quiet and peaceful out here, I told myself. It's nice to be able to come out here away from everyone else. I spent a lot of time alone because I didn't have any friends. Not having anyone to talk to, I would often speak to myself in my head. If I'm honest, doing this made my life much easier because I didn't feel so alone that way. It also helped me understand people easier. Instead of just having one opinion, I would discuss opposing viewpoints back and forth with myself. The yellow tint of the sun changed to orange as the sun tired and started to light down for the night. That's when I saw her. Just the mama deer approaching the oats. That's when I saw her. Just the mama deer approaching the oats from the brush. I searched and searched for the baby as she began eating, but she was nowhere to be found. That's when I heard the branches shuffle. A little baby deer came out of nowhere, wobbling from side to side as she walked. She could barely hold herself up, but man, was she beautiful. I had never seen something so innocent. Suddenly, I remember I needed to breathe. I had been holding my breath trying not to scare them. Luckily, they didn't hear me as I gasped. Unfortunately, my gasp startled Shady Lady. She looked up to see what it was and immediately noticed the deer standing just yards away from us. She let out the loudest, "Howoo!" The deer immediately took off. While Shady leapt up to pursue them, on her first step she slipped on her own ear and stumbled face first into the ground. She paused and looked at me, as if I was hoping I hadn't seen what just happened. "Yeah, that's what you get," I told her. She tried to continue her pursuit even though the deer were out of sight, and she had no idea where they had gone. I took off after her. She was running through the tall grass that was over her head. I couldn't see her clearly, but I could see her ears flopping above the grass line every few feet, so I followed. "Shady, stop!" I began to shout. "Come! Come!" Shady was too young to be that far from home, and so was I. I was I wasn't ever supposed to go as far as I did from the yard. I knew I'd be in big trouble if I got caught. But I was more afraid of losing Shady Lady, so I kept going. The fear of losing her filled my lungs once I ran out of air. That's what kept me going. When I couldn't see her ears anymore, I picked up the pace as I heard a pitiful whimper just ahead. Out of nowhere, a steep slope appeared in front of me. I slid across the grass as I tried to stop myself from falling into a shallow ravine. I could see Shady at the bottom. Clearly, she hadn't seen the drop through the grass in time either. It was a narrow hole, only a couple feet across and a couple dozen yards wide. It was just about 6 feet deep, but the top overhung the bottom, making it impossible to climb back up. I lay down on my belly to reach for her as she tried to claw her way up. No matter how hard I struggled, I just couldn't reach her. Jump, girl! Jump! I didn't know what else to do. She was my best friend, and if I can't even help my best friend, what good am I? Let's go back to the trailer and get some rope, I told myself. We better hurry up before it gets too dark. I took a deep breath. Wait here, girl. I'm coming right back. I began to sprint as fast as I could back home. My lungs were hurting, my eyes were watering, and my feet were throbbing. It felt like ages before I made it back to the yard. I saw my dad's truck was gone, and my mom was getting into the car with my sister. Out of breath, I began to plead for help. Shady, too far. Can't reach her. Apparently, being out of breath didn't help my mom understand what I was saying. There you are. We're leaving. We've been waiting for you. Get in the car, my mom shouted. Yeah, hurry up, stupid, my sister Miranda added. Shady, she's in a hole. I struggled to get the words out. In the car, now, my mom snapped. I got frustrated and rushed into the trailer, grabbed a coil of rope and a handful of dog treats. I sprinted back out the back door, past my mom who was still shouting, and past the pen where my dad kept his hunting dogs. As I ran by, they all started howling. I can't leave her. She's my friend. And friends protect each other, I shouted as I ran through the tall grass. She wouldn't leave me, so I won't leave her. I managed to get back to the hole where she had fallen in, and there she was, calm as could be, just sitting there. It sounded foolish, but I think she knew. She knew I'd never leave her. I threw her down a few dog treats to keep her distracted as I prepared the rescue. Okay, girl, I'll have you out in no time, I told her. I looked around. There was a thick root sticking out of the ground, exactly what I needed. I tied the rope around it and tossed it down the ravine, then hopped in without hesitation. Shady began to jump all over me the second my feet hit the ground. Good girl, I told her as she knocked me down and covered me in puppy kisses. All right, girl, let's get you out of here. I tried to lift her up with one arm and began making my way up the side of the ravine. I struggled to get to the top. It's just too hard with one arm, I told myself. You can't you can't quit. Come on, think of another way. All right, girl, you're going to have to go first. I placed one foot on the wall and pulled myself up the rope as far as I could. I jumped, then tossed her up to the top with all my might. She made it, and I sighed with relief as I landed back on the floor of the ravine. She started to bark and bounce all around in excitement on the edge. Back! Back! If you fall again, I'm not coming back down here for you, I scolded. She just moaned and laid down, clearly frustrated that I was still in the hole. I grabbed the rope and started to make my way up. I was still exhausted from running home and back again. I barely had enough strength to pull up just a foot, let alone to the top. I only managed to get about 2 feet off the ground before I felt it. The rope was slipping. I climbed faster, too fast. My panic only made it worse. The knot unraveled beneath me. I reached just in time. I caught the top edge. I sighed with relief, but the dirt crumbled beneath my fingers and I fell back to the ground. I hit hard, bruising my back on impact. Shady hopped to her feet and began to howl. Oh! I got nervous and started looking around. It was getting dark, and I couldn't see my way out. My nervousness turned to fear, and my eyes began to tear up. Shady's howling turned to whimpers. I was way too far from home for anyone to find me. Out of nowhere, Shady took off into the woods howling. Howl! Howl! No, that's the wrong way, I shouted. The trailer's the other way. A few hours went by. I was cold, alone, and scared as I laid on the hard ground. How could my friend just leave me here? I asked myself. She just left me. How can a friend do that? Then my fear became anger. She's just a stupid dog. She doesn't actually care about me. She's gone now, and you're going to be stuck down here forever. Fine, I don't need you, stupid dog. I began to shout at the silent trees. I shouldn't have come back for you in the first place. I should have just left you. I started crying, but before my tears even had time to soak into the ground, I heard it. Ow! I looked up. Ow! It was getting closer. Ow! I'm over here, I shouted. Ow! The howl was so close my tears of fear quickly turned to tears of joy. Ow! She came running up to the edge of the ravine, jumping side to side in excitement. I doubted her, but she came back, I began to cry. I should have known she wouldn't have abandoned me. She's my friend. Ow! 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 She started going nuts and jumping down to me. That's right, friends stick together no matter what. She licked me all over. Her tail wagged 100 miles per hour as I hugged her and patted her on the head. At that moment, I realized we were both back where we started. Now we were both stuck in the hole again. At least, we had each other now. But other than that, we were stuck. That's when I heard something approaching. I can hear the dog. She's over this way. I saw flashlights, and then my dad. Ow! Ow! I couldn't stop crying. Shady had led them to me. If it wasn't for her, I might I might never have been found. I had doubted her, but she had still saved me. How the hell did you get down there? My dad asked as he jumped down to get me. My mom, my sister, all my neighbors were looking for me. I tried to speak, but my tears of relief wouldn't let a word out. I held Shady as close to my chest as I could, while my dad lifted me out of the ravine and passed me to my mom. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. We couldn't find you, she said, tears running down her face. Yeah, if it wasn't for Shaylee howling, leading us here, we might not have, my dad said. That was the day my best friend Shady Lady saved my life. Even though she wasn't human, she taught me what true friendship was. And you know what the saddest part about this whole experience was? The fact my parents understood a dog better than they understood me.